Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's start this update from the situation on the ground. Unfortunately for the last 24 hours, Russia moved quite a lot, especially in this area. We're speaking about the serious direction where Russia has some sort of the breakthrough. Well, actually in this military map presented by the Institute for the Study of War, you may see the huge gain of the territory by the Russian army, but to see more details, let's go to the other military analytic. Michael 73, and definitely here he presented detailed analysis of the operation of the Russian army conducted recently. And we may say that Russia was only successful out here because of their aviation and artillery. They used many of the aviation gliding bombs and their aircraft to bomb the place, and only because of that Russia advanced. Well, they took for now this ground, but here they were not able to establish their positions yet. The fighting is ongoing in all of this area. If you check out the 3D map, you may see that Russia has some sort of the advantage in terrain. They're on a little higher ground compared to this valley, so they advance towards this village and probably will take control over it. The name of the village is Vyinka, which means some sort of the downhill. And definitely as for terrain, I may agree with that. Also, Russia continued to expand their bridgehead in Ocheretino. They took more ground for today. Well, I think that it's yesterday's update and we have it just on this military map source. So in this area, Russia is not really far away from this very important highway for the supplies. But for now, Russia is unable to move towards Vozdvizhenka, which is the last village on the way to this highway. And Russians also confirmed their advancement towards the Progress village, and they have the visual data from their drones, so definitely it happened. They moved for almost 3 kilometers for the last 24 hours, and it is definitely a significant achievement if we check out the recent Russian territorial gains. So unfortunately, yes, Russia was successful. I expected that Ukraine obtains all of the necessary military equipment this month, but it seems like it's not yet fully delivered to Ukraine. For this reason, the Ukrainian army is not yet able to stop the Russian advancements on the front lines, and this year, unfortunately, Ukraine will go fully for defense. Yes, occasionally there are some of the counterattacks, and I'm constantly speaking about those on my videos, but this day unfortunately is not that successful for Ukraine. Sorry guys, I had to start this video from not so good news. However, there are some of the positive signals for Ukraine today. For example, Ukrainian HIMARS hit the big Russian ammunition depot not really far away from Luhansk city. Yes, it's the occupied territory. There were numerous of the photos of that event, and probably I may share with you this photo. Sorry guys, I cannot share many more images because this platform is kind of restrictive towards the sensitive content. So I have to apply my own censorship on lots of the information coming. But the other platforms, like for example Telegram, is free of that stuff almost. That's why you may subscribe for my Telegram channel. You may find it in the video description just below. And Russia has already found the ATACMS debris, so HIMARS definitely used ATACMS this time. My friends, if you like the videos that I do on a daily basis, keeping you updated, you may also consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link for my Patreon page just in the video description below. By supporting me on Patreon, you just keep me going and motivate me to film more videos. What I do here on YouTube and my other social media platforms is basically my full-time job now. And because YouTube restricts many of my videos, I rely mostly on your personal support, for example on Patreon. And I spend actually half a day for sure for my daily job, and also for my Telegram channel as well. Well, basically English is not my native language, that's why it's hard for me to record those kind of the videos. To record a 20 minutes video, I spend around 3.5 hours, then I put all together while editing. So what I want to tell that, guys, thank you so much for your kind support. Sorry I went personal here, but let's continue with our topic. Alright, Zelensky spoke with Trump today for the first time since 2020, I think. Yeah, there was the time that Zelensky and Donald Trump were presidents, and Zelensky even went to meet Donald Trump once to the United States. So Donald Trump wrote on his Truth platform that they definitely had the conversation. He said about a very good phone call earlier today. So Zelensky congratulated Trump for now with a Republican nomination. He also condemned the assassination attempt of Donald Trump earlier the last Saturday. Donald Trump said that he appreciated the call from President Zelensky because he says, as your next president of the United States, so he refers to the United States citizens, will bring peace for the world and end the war that has cost so many lives and devastated countless innocent families. Both sides will be able to come together and negotiate a deal that ends the violence and paves paths forward to prosperity. I wonder how he might do it after what Russia done to Ukraine, so whether it will be peace, I just hope that it will be. But at the same time, Zelensky says that no one will push Ukraine for any sort of the deal which harms the sovereignty of Ukraine, including Donald Trump. That's why I think that Ukraine will be out of the military support from the United States if Trump gets elected. I think it might happen like that. At least we have lots of the signs stated that it could be like that. So definitely American politics influences the situation in Ukraine, as you may see. So for all of those guys who write to me, stay away from the United States politics. Sorry guys, I'll continue to put my nose over there because it definitely influences of what is happening not just in Ukraine but around the world. Here's the drawing from one of the Chinese Communist propaganda media services. They think the same. So in their article they say that Trump might use Taiwan and throw it away if needed. They published this article after the statement of Donald Trump that he says that Taiwan should pay more for the defense, or pay in general because they're too wealthy, they have lots of the chips production and so on. So with Donald Trump there comes significant changes in political spectrum worldwide, and not just in politics but in international relations. And also Zelensky said that they agreed on personal meeting to discuss the issue with more details. Well guys, we'll see how it goes, but there are huge risks for Ukrainian military support. Guys, sorry that we touched the American politics so early in this video, but there is also the news about Biden. As some of the media services reported, Biden might resign this weekend to give the bait to the other candidate from the Democratic Party to run the election campaign. But we have new information coming that Biden vows to run as more Democrats ask him to drop out. It means that Biden still wants to become the United States president once again, but the chances for it are very low. I mean, let's be honest guys, Trump really has pretty much high chances to win election campaign if everything stays the same. And according to the recent polls which I showed you yesterday, citing the CNN source, yes, the liberal media from the Democrat side, all of the swing states will vote for Trump. There should be some sort of the solution for Biden. Yeah, definitely there is still a long time till the actual elections, but I don't know what to do to boost Biden's reputation. Now people just see him as an old guy, incapable to perform his duties. I monitor the social media, I understand what I'm talking about. Even Democrats say, come on Biden, step aside, give the way to more prospective candidate. I'm not saying that Kamala is more perspective compared to Biden. I think it's mostly the same. But you know, people will still vote for Biden or any sort of the Democrat candidate, just not to get Trump elected. But we'll see if it works. So America is definitely now divided into two of the camps. The CBS News published the latest polls for Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, just in case Biden decides to drop off his candidacy. Well, honestly, I don't see the huge difference for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden in this case. 3–4%, it's basically the same. And the most important thing, as I told you, are the swing states. Not the swinger states, as I said in one of my videos, swing states. Swinger is something really different. A couple of weeks ago, Russia attacked the children's hospital in Kiev, Ohmedid, and there was the video which went viral around the media how one of the doctors who received minor injuries tried to help the search and rescue team because after all his wounds allowed him to move and do so. Well, today Russia came out with propaganda video. They show the guy similar to this doctor. They put the white costume on him and they show some sort of the police officer. They put Ukrainian name Politia, who painted the guy from the back in the red color, I mean his shirt. And now the Russian propaganda, which filmed actually this video, stated that it's the Ukrainian side which faked the attack on children's hospital doing. I have absolutely no words to describe those bastards. My friends, I already busted this video on my Telegram channel because of the platform restrictions. I cannot show you exactly what the situation is about because there is the blood images involved. But clearly 100% it's just the Russian fake. The Russian media, if we may call it this way, basically it's the propaganda, has no dignity at all, as well as the Russian regime itself. But what is happening in Russia itself? Well, people went to the meeting to the local square because they don't have electricity for many hours. There are the issues with electricity in Kursk, in Belgorod, in Rostov, in Krasnodarsk Krai, so all around, including the occupied territory of Crimea. The power supplies were disturbed mostly because Russia has the problem with their energy generators and substation equipment. It is basically hard to replace it under sanctions. That's how the Russian bus, yes, the commercial bus, looks like in Belgorod Oblast. As you may see, it also has the drone protection meshes. And this is the driver of that particular bus. So Putin said that the special military operation goes according to plan, and we see that definitely the plan is successful. The plan was for Russians to walk in armor rests. Why not? Once again, the Ukrainian army successfully shot down the Russian Sukhoi-25 attack airplane. By the way, Ukrainian Air Force also has those kind of the airplanes, but unfortunately, Ukraine is in lack of the ammunition, especially small uncontrolled rockets. That is why Ukrainian airplanes are unable to perform their duties as effectively as, for example, Russian airplanes. But nevertheless, the Russian losses in those airplanes are just tremendous. I think it happens because Ukraine obtained more of the Stinger manpads as well as Mistral short-range air defense systems. You know what? Russia continued to use their China-made Golf mobiles to advance in many of the points of the front lines. This video was filmed by Ukrainian FPV drone which hit this particular vehicle, and there was the Russian infantry inside. You may try to guess what happened to them. Yeah, by the way, the full video is available on my Telegram. It's my alternate source to keep you updated on the situation in Ukraine. So again, my recommendation to subscribe for my Telegram, guys. Well, I understand that the human life is nothing for the Russian army, but recently I checked out the bonus which they give to their army men if they decide to voluntarily join the Russian army. So what Russians say that the bonus could be up to $20,000. $20,000? Yeah, obviously Russians obtain it in rubles, but outside Moscow, people never seen such a huge sum. I mean, majority of people for sure. Well, to be clear, $20,000 is the maximum sum, and it is given to the very narrow circle of the ex-military servicemen, usually tank commanders and other specialists. For the casual frontline army man, it's not more than $5,000, but still it's a lot. So if you have some other military experience before, if you join the Russian army, immediately you obtain $5,000 and you may spend those for your equipment or just send to your family, and later on Russians obtain the salary if they survive at least 1 month. And the conditions for the ordinary soldiers of the Russian army, well, those are just terrible. Well, this Russian soldier, we don't see his face, but they film how they cook their meal, and for sure those are the Russian soldiers. They have this Russian uniform and they spoke with classical Russian accent. So what they're cooking nettle soup. No, not the noodle soup, nettle soup. Nettle, it's just the gross. Well, they also show that they have tushonka, it's the canned beef, but they may only use 2 of the spoons of this beef today because they have just a single can left. So what they say that without this nettle soup they would be doomed already. And you know, my wife saw this video and she told me that during the Holodomor time in Ukraine, back in 1930s, people also used to cook those nettle soups just to survive because Bolsheviks or communists took all of the food from farmers. And now there is the hunger among the Russian soldiers. They don't have the food supplies. Russians use the water from the rain or from the swamps. They filter it and then use for cooking. Well, everything of that shows that Russia wasn't really prepared for this long-term conflict. And now they intensify their attacks to get as much ground as possible before Donald Trump gets elected, and later on they think that there will be some sort of the negotiations and Russia will be allowed to keep of what they're able to get from Ukraine, I mean all of the ground. The only question is why, because those conditions are quite terrible as for the human being, so I guess in prison, in Russian prison, it's even better than in the Russian army. In the Russian prison, there is no direct risk for the health or for the life from, for example, drones, and I guess they eat noodle soup, not the nettle soup, in the Russian prisons. So if I was Russian and had the choice to go to the Russian army or to the Russian prison, I would choose prison, even for 10 or 15 years, because the Russian regime is not forever. Some of the new images from Ukraine, this is the Leopard 1 tank. And as you can see, Ukraine put lots of the Contact 1 armor and huge plate in the front. Well, I hope that it might help to protect the crew, because the armor of the tank is kind of weak even compared to the T-72 or T-64 tanks. Right, yesterday I told you about the Ukrainian drone boat attacks. From Ukrainian side we have the information that the attack was successful. From the Russian side we have the information that the attack was repelled. Well, as a Ukrainian, having the pro-Ukrainian channel, I always tend to believe the Ukrainian side, but I want to check the facts. And Russia shows the propaganda video of how they use helicopters and some of the boats to chase the Ukrainian drone boat. So they have this kind of the boat. Now they show how they eliminate the drone boat, but from this distance and with this quality, it's hard to say of what was hit out there. And you know what? The Ukrainian drone boat attack was performed during the night time, but they show the daytime. Also, it wasn't just the drone boat attack. No, Ukraine also launched the aerial drones. Oh guys, I cannot share this video fully on this platform as well, because it's definitely horrific and shows the stupidity of some of the Russian soldiers. I would say majority. Those are clearly Russians. You may see the marking on their shirts, and definitely it's the Russian uniform. So what are those guys doing? They're hammering the shell or a grenade or something with the axe. What was the purpose? I'm out of clue. Probably they were bored or something. You can see the cat also was passing by. It looked at the shell and decided to walk away to the bushes, just not to participate this evolutionary selection. So what happened? Yes, the shell kaboomed. If you hit something, you should expect it to happen, especially something really explosive, so with TNT inside. And the shrapnel obviously went all around, hitting everyone who was in its circle, all of the 3 stupid men. Well, the story unfortunately ends with this video, so the outcome for those 3 guys is yet unknown. In the best case scenario, they obtained heavy wounds and will be delivered back home to Russia. But there is also the probability for them to be sent back to the front lines, because Russia needs everyone on the front lines. Even the wounded personnel is now fighting. And you know, there was the Russian advancement in Vuhledar. I showed you it yesterday. Well, for today we have this drone video. So Russia advanced with a couple of the vehicles, and both of the vehicles were kaboomed by Ukraine. Probably they hit the mine. Well, as usual, the outcome is terrible for the Russian army, but still they have the courage for those assaults. And as we may check for the daily updates of the military maps, they sometimes take the ground. When I was young, I used to play the strategy video games, like for example StarCraft, and I like to play for the undeveloped Xeric civilization. As far as I remember, it's the best army for you to build it quickly and rush someone also very quickly. With tons of those simple units, those are very undeveloped, they have light armor and they don't cause lots of the damages, but together with this big group, which you can build very fast, you may rush your enemy. And the Russian army reminds me that Xeric civilization from the strategy game. Lack of training, equipment and everything, but they're able to rush using their quantity. Well, for now Russia has that resource, but we see that they start to struggle with their army men. And as we see from the videos Russians film, they don't live long life on the front lines. I think that this strategy is the usual thing for the Russian army. It was like that even during the Soviet times and before in the Russian Empire. Russia never cared about their soldiers, that's why they suffer all the time tremendous losses, just drowning their enemy in the Russians' blood. But again, this tactics is just unable to continue forever for any sort of the army, so at some point Russia will be forced to go for defense fully. I expect it to happen at the end of this year. Alright guys, so Hungary is definitely angry on Ukraine because Ukraine applied sanctions on the Russian oil, which goes to Slovakia and Hungary. The Hungarian Foreign Ministry already called the move from Ukraine is unprecedented and unacceptable. Well, probably it could be a response to Viktor Orban after his so-called peace initiative travel around the world. Unacceptable or acceptable, but Hungary has to accept Ukrainian sanctions in any way. Maybe they might call Russia to deliver oil to them using the tankers via the Great Hungarian Sea. I guess it should work fine, they just need to dig the sea somewhere. Just a reminder, Ukraine applied sanctions on the Russian oil, which has been transferred through Ukrainian territory to Hungary and Slovakia, plus to Czech Republic, but they have the alternate supplies from Germany. The Russian officials stated that they've started to build the hangars for their fighter jets massively. Just look at this. Well, actually, it's a toy. But nevertheless, this project was presented on one of the Russian exhibitions. They even put the trash bin. So the new Russian defense minister Belousov looked at this hangar and said, okay, we're gonna build it massively all around the airfields in Russia. But according to the opinion of the Russian military bloggers, who probably care more about those hangars than the Russian Defense Ministry, for now there is no any evidence that Russia started to build hangars massively on their airfields. Still, they store their fighter jets open air, which is quite good for Ukraine. By the way, we have some of the signals from the White House administration that they might allow Ukraine to use ATACMS missiles against the Russian military airfields. I don't want to say more about this case for now, but probably, hopefully in a nearby future, we're gonna hear some of the positive news for Ukraine. Kind of interesting, Russia started to use technologies from the Second World War, I mean those aerostats. They're now used by Russians to transmit the radio signals beyond horizon, because the Earth is round, right? Well, definitely it is. That's why basically they need this higher ground, and those aerostats could be launched to around 10,000 feet of the altitude. And those are being used to provide control and communication for the Russian armed forces on the front lines. As we see, after all, Russia learns on its mistakes and they try to evolve. Few of the media sources in Russia and Ukraine wrote that there was some sort of the technological disaster in one of the Russian nuclear power plants in Rostov Oblast. They even mentioned that there is some sort of the nuclear cloud going somewhere, but actually for now I may say that those news are fake. Many of the Windows users around the world saw this screen today. Many of the bank and ticket services stocks were closed globally. This global bag led to even emergency services cut out in the United States and Canada in some of the places. And actually it wasn't Russian or Chinese cyber attack. No, the problem was caused by the antivirus software, which started to attack the Windows itself. Well, for this hour most of the operations have already been restored. But it shows how definitely we're interconnected into the system, and our lives globally depend on internet and software, like Windows for example. And here's even the boarding pass from the Indigo Airlines, because the system wasn't working. They put everything there by hand, kind of the unique way out. And here's the flight's timetable, flight destination, gate, and departure time. The Windows system is used not just in your PC, but also in ATMs and in airport systems. Even some of the media services like Sky News were unable to broadcast because of the bug. As you probably know, YouTube blocks many of the Russian propaganda artists, so Shaman, who sings propaganda songs like Ya Ruski or something like that, gathered a meeting to support him against YouTube blockade. So there is Shaman, YouTube, please unblock Shaman, and many of the participants who were paid for the meeting, they told about it themselves. Well, actually not many people were there, as you may see, and something tells me that YouTube will not unblock Shaman after this meeting. It isn't convincing at all. Alright guys, and for the latest news, Russia advanced towards progress. We understand that they've captured this village already. I already showed you the confirmed information about the case, and Rozdolivka, well, here was also the Russian advancement yesterday and today. It is located over here on the northern part of Donetsk Oblast, so Russia tries to find the weak spot of Ukrainian defense, and if they find it, they send more reinforcements to particular vulnerable point. But anyways guys, if we check out the border of the Donetsk Oblast, it goes like, and since the beginning of the war, Russia captured this area and this one. About Luhansk Oblast, well, it's the different story. Ukrainian defense wasn't really prepared out there. So in general, I would say that Russia occupied around 30, maybe 35% of what they really need to occupy in Donetsk Oblast. And there are some huge urban areas which Ukraine might use as the defense lines also. So Russia is definitely far, far away from their goal to occupy all of the Donetsk Oblast. That's why they want to negotiate about it, maybe even with a future United States president, who knows? But Ukraine will obviously never agree to just give the land to Russia. No, it's nonsense. And I think that the fight will continue for quite a long time, no matter who will be in charge of the White House. And now, my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. As usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.